All right, I thought I'd do a video. Why not? I don't know what I'm going to talk about because it's easier to write in that, you can always go back, edit, shift things, move things, blah, blah, blah. And I got a bit of, well, somebody gave me some flack for my creative writing about Elijah Wood. A Swami gave me flack mainly because I have a picture with me smoking a joint, drinking a tea. But he's saying drinking, smoking, wrong. Bad image you're giving. And I'm not. Am I enlightened? I think so, because I don't have any fucking fear. I know who I am. I do know that I've given Shaktipat. I've had that experience. In fact, I've had that experience before I ever met my Swami, of sitting in the bhav with people, mainly with my dad. I mean, I was in the bhav with my dad for like 14, 15 years. I was born pretty happy and pretty blissful. I find mainly the only thing that tries to rob me of my bliss and my happiness are people and the amount of time and energy they need for me, and how much they need to engage with me, and how much they also need to make my life miserable. But to that Swami, enlightenment in the end is you have to also drop all of the disciplines, actually. When you read the Shiva Sutras, not Shiva Sutra, the Vijnana Bharava. This is Jadayev Singh's version. There's also Lakshmanju's. I prefer Lakshmanju's because it's more complicated, and I sort of like complicated. But also I find that the distinction between effort and non-effort is made very clear. There's three words that he uses. There's efforting that leads to non-effort, and then there's non-effort. So there's efforting that leads to non-effort, and non-effort. The more meditation, the more yoga you do. In the beginning, it is about disciplines, but the disciplines of like eating right, smoking, drinking, I don't know, all of these, the idea is to purify the body, but it's not really about purifying it so it's holy. It's about taking away first the material attachments you have. Attachments to physical attachments to sex, cookies. I mean, the cookie might be your cigarette and your nicotine, and it might be your addiction. And the idea of getting past that and figuring out what is the motive and what is the pull. Why am I grabbing this? I did smoke cigarettes until about 10 or 11 years ago is when I quit. And I quit because of grace. My teacher had gone from being just Rama Birch to Swami Nirmalalanda Saraswati. And everything changed, I think, for all of our students. But for me, I had this divine grace that allowed me all of a sudden not to smoke. Now, what happened inside of that? Because I'd quit once before for 3 years. I quit smoking for 3 years. I was like, nope. But every day it was a struggle. And I went out drinking with some friends. And, we had a good time. Heck, we even found this whole pile of statues. Awards, running awards for the Middletown Marathon. Like 5 girls, fucking drunk as a skunk, coming back from Eli's, going up Grand Street. And we're drunk, and we find this pile of just like a pile of like, I won Middletown Marathon Award. Somebody was throwing 5 years worth away. They had won for 5 years. Not always first, but we each got a statue. We each got one of these awards. We all gave our speeches for our awards, and I started smoking cigarettes, and the next day I was back to smoking. And like I had never quit. Something had happened differently the last time. I really didn't want a cigarette anymore. I didn't have a desire. I didn't need it. It was, and even now, like if I have a dirty joint or somebody passes me a joint with some tobacco, I'm not really keen on it. But the Dutch seem to they don't smoke pure joints. It's no problem. It doesn't give me this desire like, oh, I need to go have a cigarette. Oh, I have to go buy a pack. No. However, one of the things that I noticed when you're when you quit smoking was that there was this impulse every time that I was in a social setting or in something where I had to be, because people make me uncomfortable. They do. I would want to go smoke a cigarette. The cigarette was my way of creating a break between what was going on and just creating space and keeping people blocked out and keeping me blocked out. And I think for many of us, it is a way of coping. It's a way of just like, because it's like, I have to go smoke a cigarette. It's like we can't do it anymore in front of each other because everyone has to go outside. Or we do it outside and we're cold and it's dust. But this time, it didn't, there was no desire. There was no desire to start up or to even have one. And I have had one or two, and I was like, it's gross. Not just a drag, and I was like, forget this. And plus, I had some hash, and I was like, well, hash doesn't smoke very well unless you put it on some tobacco. But I can honestly say after, I think that's 11 years, I'm tobacco free. I don't count the, like, I think a total of 2 cigarettes worth of tobacco I've had since then, maybe 4. My cat wants to get in the way. Fuck you. I love my cat. I do. She's the sweetest thing I've ever had in my entire life for a cat. Anyway, so the stopping of vices, it isn't about the vice being bad. It's or the stopping of smoking, of drinking, of meat eating, and all these things. It isn't about that these things are bad. It's to see whether or not these are things you're supposed to be doing, whether you're relying on these things as a crutch, or if you're in denial, or if it's a physical addiction, is it a mental, is it emotional? Why are you doing this? Is this part of who you are? And for me, well, I've been smoking weed on and off since I was 25. I'm not consistent on it because, quite honestly, I don't think it's healthy to do something to a point where you forget what normal is or what stasis is. And that's part of why in yoga you do want to stop these things. The meat eating, well, I think we eat way too much meat. Ayurveda and yogic practices are not against meat. In fact, chicken is allowed and eggs are allowed, and it depends on your constitution and if you're ill. Bone broth is also allowed when you're ill in Ayurvedic principles. The idea, though, is that you're not just doing it because you want it or like it. There's an acknowledgement that something different and more has to happen in the world for this, and that something might be hurt. This is the same principles we're like, what does enlightenment look like? Well, enlightenment is a feeling, folks. You're not going to find someone who looks enlightened. This is my teacher's teacher. Take a look at him. That's Bhagavan Nityananda. What do you see? Seriously, what do you see? Crazy, crazy mostly naked man with a big belly. And some fierce eyes, I guess. This is not his best picture. There is a picture of himself that he loved even more. But it's what you feel. I mean, when you go to Ganeshpuri or you meet any of the students of his students even, who've attained this state, and I'll tell you, none of them have attained it to the level that he attained it. There's this bhav, and the bhav is what it is. It's just love. In their presence, you feel love, you feel good, you feel blissful, you feel happy. You feel accepted. And this can be very scary. You might even be freaked out, but what you will experience is an emotional thing. I mean, he didn't talk much, Nityananda. He didn't really talk to any intellectuals, because as far as he was concerned, you needed to shut the fuck up and start listening. Because he was known to hear them from miles and miles around. There was an intellectual who came to visit him one day. And that entire day, before the guy showed up, Nityananda was running around going, blah, 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 blah. Just bullshit like that. Just like blah, 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 blah. He was hearing this guy from miles and miles away. And I believe that because you sink into this silence. Meditation is silence. It's learning to listen to the silence. And there isn't any silence. Because when you really listen, you hear the buzz and hum of all the wheels spinning, all of the thing working. And it is like one hand clapping, because there's this continuous expectation of hearing the clap. And it is the Big Bang. See, the thing is, the Big Bang didn't happen. It's happening. It's always happening. It's never stopped happening. And so it has no conclusion. And so it never like happens. It's always on this way. And this is the way reality or this time-space thing works. It's always moving. It never concludes. And that's how the Big Bang is. It's continuously happening, has always been happening, and we're in the middle of it continuously. When you meditate, you start hearing this buzz. You can hear several things, actually. You can hear the angelic choir. You can hear the tambora, the bees buzzing. There's all these sounds. The ocean waves are considered that. Your breath in itself, we're hearing the natural rhythm of so hum or hum sa, which is the sound of your breath. It goes so in, hum out. Or the other way around, hum in, sa out. Satnam is what the Kundalinis use. But it's all in the breath, because the only thing that actually is happening, when you really get down to it, the only thing that you have no control over, that always is happening, is the breath. In order to stop breathing, you have to manipulate the crap out of a situation. Whether you're choking yourself with whether somebody's hanging themselves or drowning themselves, your instinct is, even in drowning, your instinct is to take an inhale. You can't stop the inhale. You cannot stop the breath without extreme violence. So God is in the breath. That's what Hinduism teaches. It's what a lot of things teach. And it's not just the breath as it comes in and as it goes out, but it's the breath, the pause in between. Because you have to stop completely and reverse engines. So the breath in, the breath out, and there's a pause somewhere in between. You can get lost in that pause, and you'd be surprised how long you can sit in that pause. And that is one of the 112 meditation techniques that you'll find in here. The subtlety of it is, the breath is beyond your control. And it's something that not one person can argue over. The breath is beyond your control. It is the life force. You are being breathed. You're not breathing. You are being breathed. There is a pulse that is happening. And it has nothing to do with you. You don't even control it. Most people are not aware of it, that it's even there, and that it is the force that puts you into motion. It's the force, too, that makes thoughts. It's the force that moves you, that animates you. And it has nothing to do with you. It's just a blessing to have it, because you don't exist without it. This is the little shit. Look at him. Look at her. Look at those eyes. That's the face of a cat. She's grown very big. So, the easiest thing for meditation is you sit up. You find some place that you like doing it in, and you watch your breath. And it's not even that you watch your breath. You experience yourself being breathed. Who's breathing you? What's breathing you? Why are you being breathed? These are self-inquiry questions, too. Namaste.